occasions of serving with 3 Chief Justices under his 10-year tenure.
I, David Kenani Maraga,
do swear in the name of the Almighty God to diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya.
To diligently serve the people of the Republic of Kenya.
The 13th Chief Justice Emeritus Dr. Willy Mutunga, who was sworn in on the 22nd of June 2011, is a holder of a doctorate degree in jurisprudence from Osgood Hall Law School, New York University in Toronto, Canada.
Mine is to ask you to serve the people of Kenya with unfailing integrity and commitment. Let your actions and decisions be guided slowly on unbiased and faithful application of the Constitution and our written laws, our principles and values as a nation, and the overriding interests of justice.
But what are the main achievements, challenges, and lessons learned by President Uhuru Kenyatta?
There's been an improvement in the number of magistrates being recruited, the number of legal researchers, because also that affects performance of the judicial officers if they don't have enough legal researchers within the system. The IT projects that were started under Willy Mutunga and under my tenure, most of them stalled, but I see now that there is an effort by the current Chief Justice Martha Koome to try and restart it. He is also will be remembered as someone who has disobeyed court orders. He has had no less than 8 court decisions declaring his actions in office as unconstitutional, from the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, the Huduma number, the appointment of the CASS.
The most important thing you'll see that in terms of judicial transformation, in terms of access to justice, we've seen a lot happening through the presidency of Uhuru for the last 10 years. So that no one can take away from him. We've seen court stations being developed, in many areas, Nairobi, Kakamega.
Some have described Mutunga's 5-year tenure, 3 of which he served with President Uhuru Kenyatta, as one full of reforms.
We as judges must guard against becoming captives of political, commercial, or other interests. It should no longer be possible to speak about corruption and the judiciary in one breath.
Under Willy Mutunga, the one thing that you can credit Willy Mutunga for is helping separate the state from the judiciary and exert the independence of the judiciary. That he did successfully. So by the time Justice Maraga came in, Justice Maraga was able to find a judiciary that was now quite independent.
The former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga came from the civil society. Of course, civil society has its own agitation, strife, and we expected him to actually be an antagonist kind of Chief Justice. What he did, he tried his very best to balance between that need for antagonism and the need for diplomacy.
The 2013 Supreme Court judgment that upheld President Uhuru Kenyatta's win may have put him in the good books with the head of state then.
It is the decision of the court that the 3rd and 4th respondents were validly elected.
However, the ruling that attracted praise and protest in equal measure left a bad taste in the Raila Odinga-led Coalition for Reform and Democracy CORD's mouth. Bribery allegations and calls for his resignation by the opposition grew louder. And 8 years on, Raila is yet to make a full recovery.
Tukapeleka ile evidence yote kule mahakamani. Alafu bado wanapenda kusema ya kwamba ile ushahidi tumeleta imechelewa. Aliyesema haya si mwingine Willy Mutunga. Ndiye amesema. Tunaona yeye anaanza kusema ati yeye hakuna haki nini. Yeye mwenyewe alitukasimia sisi haki akiwa kama yeye ni Chief Justice.
I, David Kenani Maraga, Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya.
And after the 13th came the 14th Chief Justice, Justice David Kenani Maraga, an astute jurist whose term and relationship with the president could be best summarized in the Supreme Court verdict that for the first time in Africa nullified the elections of a sitting president.
That the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
The ruling, which earned Maraga friends and foes in equal measure, became the genesis of the frosty relations between him and President Kenyatta.
The first respondent failed, neglected, or refused to conduct the presidential election in a manner consistent with the dictates of the Constitution.
Watu waine ati ndio watakuja waseme kulikuwa technicality. We have a problem with our judiciary, but regardless, we respect, but we shall revisit. We shall respect, but we shall revisit this agenda.
After the 2017 nullification of the presidential elections, he actually went out in public and declared war on the judiciary and said that he will revisit what they have done to him. So he took it personally. He completely forgot that the judiciary was just doing its job as they are required by the Constitution.
Some of his concerns included the failure by the president to swear in 41 judges as required by law and implementation of the court order to have lawyer Miguna, who is in exile to Canada, back to the country.
I'm not money. I'm not going. Where are my luggage? Where is my passport? I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. What? The captain cannot fly. The captain cannot fly.
Si Maraga na watu yake hao wakora hao wamesema ati basi hiyo uchaguzi ipotee. Si ndivyo wamesema? Sasa mimi sana sio rais mtarajiwa. Mimi ni rais ambao amekalia kiti.
We are tired of being the punching bag all the time. It is wastage to buy a CJ, a Mercedes 500, but it is not a wastage to buy the two speakers of the National Assembly, Mercedes 500.
The biggest challenge that the judiciary faced under Justice Maraga is just because they started on a wrong foot with President Kenyatta. But thereafter, I think he rescued it over the time before he left.
From my point of view, I don't think the president actually revisited. You know, some things you can speak at the heat of the moment. You are human, you can react. But in terms of the actual actions, I have not seen substantively. Of course, we've had issues by the retired Chief Justice Emeritus Maraga.
Whatever were considered as fights were not fights per se, as the layman would call it. They're just differences of opinion, if I were to talk from a legal perspective. Yeah, and the fact that, in fact, as he's leaving office, we've noticed that he has approved the judiciary fund, which has been one of the aspects of the judiciary funding that has been long overdue.
Some have described him as combative, while some say he simply stood with the sanctity of the courts, following the law to the letter, a move that most of the times brought him into a head-on collision with the powers that be.
I have decided that unless I'm treated with the dignity due to my office, I will choose which of those state functions I will attend.
Maraga is a very, very headstrong person as a personality. Even if you look at previously the way he conducted his courtrooms.
He chose an approach which, of course, by the time he was leaving, we could see that in terms of the people who were suffering, it of course ended up being the consumers of justice. But his approach, you cannot fault it, but to a large extent, when there is antagonism at that particular point, things were not then moving forward.
Some have also come to Maraga's defense, led by Deputy President William Ruto.
I believe in the independence of the judiciary. I believe government should lead from the front in obeying court orders. And in fact, we have said in our manifesto, if you read it clearly, it says we will look at all judgments that have been entered against government, and we will develop a mechanism to make sure that within 1 year we comply with all judgments entered against government.
I, Martha Karambu Koome, Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, do swear.
And after the two men who ushered in the Constitution of Kenya 2010 came in a woman of many firsts, the first woman CJ Martha Koome.
If you expect the judiciary with 54% of the human capacity, human resource capacity, to serve 50 million Kenyans, is a tall order. Also, the buildings themselves, the infrastructure, technology, and all that also needs to be matched. This is a 13 trillion economy. Nairobi is the hub of commercial activities. We do not have the infrastructure to be able to serve that kind of population and that kind of economy.
With barely a year after she ascended to power, there are already disagreements among the members in the legal profession about her approach to leadership.
Chief Justice Martha Koome is very diplomatic in the way she operates. And I think that's how she managed to convince President Kenyatta to hire not all the judges, but at least some of them. So I think she realizes that there's no need to make the relationship any worse, you know. And but that comes because she's a woman. Women deal with issues; they don't deal with egos.
The issue was asked: how do you intend to deal with the impasse that is there? And she was very categorical. This is how I will. This is what I will do. She has done exactly that. So it's not something that came after.
I think everybody has their different styles of leadership. Yes, but I wouldn't say that anyone is a puppet. They are both principled in their own different ways. From the way I interacted with them, and they're both very courteous.
So what I realized is that the judiciary has been left behind in terms of development for maybe 30 years. So it requires a Marshall Plan for it to reflog and be able to respond to the expectations of our commercial justice, of our resolving all the disputes that we come across, and hence the mega program of opening the doorways to justice using other mechanisms.
Her modus operandi has already borne some fruits, with 34 out of 40 judges already sworn in, the standoff that existed for months between President Kenyatta and her predecessor unlocked within weeks in office. However, the 6 are yet to be appointed, a debate that still rages on. With 9 years remaining in her calendar, many expectations abound in her scorecard as she moves to effect a functional and efficient judiciary.
If it will be in my place to give any advice, of course, mine will be that fidelity to the law will be very, very key. And this is actually the first chapter that will be read when history is written as regards Martha Koome, her judgeship.
The president has had some achievements in the judiciary that happened during his tenure. Kenyans will remember some of his main achievements and the legacy that he leaves behind, especially the relationship that he had with the judiciary. Emmanuel Tor, KTN News at the Supreme Court, Nairobi.